Joining us for this week's Newsmaker segment is Brian O'Hara, Senior Vice President for Strategy and Government Affairs at Strata Solar, headquartered in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Brian, thanks for joining us on Bottom Line.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, you've had quite an interesting career in the energy field. Tell us a little bit about your background and what changes you've seen in the energy industry over those years.
Yeah, over the course of my career, I'd say I've been a sort of an all-of-the-above energy guy. I'm working in solar now. Prior to that, was working in wind energy. And prior to that, in a previous life, was working in the offshore oil and gas industry doing deep water exploration wells in the Gulf of Mexico and off the coast of West Africa. So I've seen a good cross section of the industry, and have sort of seen the energy industry change over time.
What have been the most significant changes among those that you've seen?
Well, it's historically, when you look back, has not been a very rapidly changing industry, but that has completely been turned on its head in the last decade or two. Really, the biggest change has been the decline in the cost of renewable energy. Both wind and solar have just come down in price dramatically. And so where 20 years ago they were out of the money, they weren't cost competitive, today we're seeing prices out of utility scale solar and wind farms they're competitive with anything: natural gas, coal, nuclear, you name it.
Well, I saw a statistic recently, 350,000 households in North Carolina have a solar array of some sort on them. We're the second largest concentration in the United States in that regard. What makes North Carolina so significant in this?
Yeah, it was really it was a perfect storm of both policy and technology advancement that really got kicked off in the beginning in 2007 with what was Senate Bill 3 at the time. It was the state's renewable portfolio standard. So you had the combination of that, a state tax credit, and the federal tax credit that was available to all states, and the state's implementation of a federal law called PURPA. All those things came together at the right time when the cost of solar came down, where it would make sense to build these projects. You could make them work economically. Since then we've seen the state tax credit go away, and as an industry we didn't fight that when it went away, because our technology's come to the point where we don't need it. So, I'd say the policy in North Carolina was proactive, was forward-looking, and did exactly what it was intended to do, which is help stand an industry up, walk away from support, and let it run.
And I guess we're poised for more growth in solar, given the passage and signing by the governor of House Bill 589. That's been getting a lot of attention because of the controversial wind moratorium that was tacked under there at the last minute. But as far as the solar side, I think most people were in agreement on that. Tell us a little bit about what that bill does for the solar industry and what growth is ahead of us.
Yeah, we're very pleased that this bill's been signed into law. I know that was a difficult decision for the governor, and we think he made the right decision for the North Carolina economy. What that bill does is it changes the fundamental market drivers for solar energy. So, in a way, we've been so successful that we've realized we need to change the way we're doing things if we're going to continue to grow on the pace. So it puts in place a competitive procurement market for solar, for large-scale solar, creates a market demand of 2.5 gigawatts, which is $2.5 to $3 billion of investment in the state over the next about 4 years or so, and is going to save ratepayers a lot of money. So there's a lot of other provisions in that bill, things like leasing for rooftop solar, solar programs for corporate companies that want to go solar and have clean energy. So we really think this is a big step forward for the state, and is going to keep us in that. We're number 2 now. I think this is going to keep us there.
Well, there's some perception that there was competitiveness between wind and solar, maybe as a result of the way this bill played out. But are they competitive industries?
Not, in some places yes, and others no. I mean, I can tell you that as industry colleagues, we work very closely with folks in the wind industry. We sort of see ourselves as being on the same team. We were just really sickened to see this wind moratorium inserted into this bill, and we're going to do everything we can to stand by them and help move things forward for wind in the state as well.
Is there a tension between wind and solar and the traditional energy generation, Duke Energy and others in the state? Is that a source of competition?
I would say that just the pace at which things have changed alone creates some tension, because utilities are in an industry where they haven't seen this sort of rapid change in a while, and it's difficult to adapt that quickly. So, I think part of the tension previously was in this previous market driver. As I said, this bill will change that market driver, and this is a result of 9-10 months of negotiations between our industry, between the utilities, between environmental groups, customers, industrial customers, a whole breadth of stakeholders. And it was a fair compromise bill, and I think everyone is supportive of it.
Yeah, is there a sense that if you're a homeowner or a business that wants to do a solar installation on a fairly small scale, is this going to become easier now that this bill's law?
It should. Like I said, that the leasing program that's been instituted as a part of this bill, I think the details of how that program are going to work still need to be worked out. But the intent is, yeah, for it to make it easier for people to go solar.
So what is the future of solar, not just the industry, but in some of the technology, the advancements? What do you imagine the next decade will reveal for your industry?
Well, like I said, I mean, the big trend has been declining costs, and I think we're going to continue to see that trend for a while. And as we get lower and lower costs, it starts opening up more and more opportunities. You become the cost competitive or the least cost energy resource in more and more markets as the costs come down. And then as the costs come down even further, we see more deployment. We get a lot of solar on the grid. As that cost comes down even further and the cost of energy storage starts to come down in the future, you can see those things starting to be paired together so that you may run up against some limits about how much solar you can have. You start adding energy storage to that, the sky's the limit.
I understand for a couple of years ago there was some resistance in particularly rural communities to some of these large-scale solar installations, some based off misinformation that somehow it might harm the farmland underneath the solar panels. Are you finding that some of that resistance has lessened as people learn more about how the industry works and what to expect when an installation comes to their town?
In some places it's lessened where we have a chance to get in and educate folks, and in other places it grows. It's something that we're constantly dealing with. I can say we build solar where people want us to build solar generally. The landowners that we work with, they love the fact that they have a guaranteed revenue stream. We're adding tax base to the counties. So there's a lot of positives about both solar and wind in terms of rural economic development. These are economic development opportunities that rural counties typically don't have otherwise, and we come in and can bring really serious investments and jobs to those regions.
One of the issues that any industry has is, can you find the workers for the jobs you have? In terms of skill set, the training necessary to do the jobs that your company has available, are you finding North Carolina is able to provide the workforce?
Yeah, we are. In fact, one of the things that Strata really prides itself on is we do a lot of work with military veterans. We look at people coming out of the force. They are a perfect fit for us. We'll actually go do recruiting job fairs on military bases to pick up people in the construction field. They can work outside and discipline teams, and so it's always a challenge to find and keep good people. But we find that the military is a great source for us.